Our long nightmare is over. It's finally time for Bama Bowl week.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me, and Bama Online's Jim Stein, that's him. This episode is thankful that you guys are here every day. That's what we're thankful for. And we're thankful for you newbies for being here 2 days. And thank you for making this your first listen. Excuse me for coughing. God almighty, where did that come from? Oh, cow. Just out of nowhere. Anywho, welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Bama podcast. We appreciate you guys so much. Jimmy and I have been a little bit out of practice. We've been doing family stuff just like the rest of y'all. But it is Bama Bowl week. We have a game in 2 American days. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's the first game on that Tuesday. Jimmy, you've been writing some articles about it. In fact, you've got one on Bama Online called The 4 Keys to Bama's Victory. And I just started reading that because you just put it out a few minutes ago. But one thing that stood out to me was, first of all, Michigan's leading rusher has opted out to go to the draft. Their second leading rusher is not going to be playing. And their best defensive back's not playing. Their best defensive tackle's not playing. They got a lot of dudes sitting out. But one thing you brought up, you were talking about how, and I'll let you expound, about how Alabama's defensive backs, the young defensive backs, need to play very well in this game because they'll be targeted. And I said, oh, that is very true because, you know, I'm sure Michigan has a quarterback who's thrown for, oh, my God, he's only thrown for 1,126 yards and 6 touchdowns and 9 interceptions with a QBR of 52.4. That's not very good.
No, if Alabama was playing this game against, let's say, Nussmeier at LSU or a healthy Carson Beck against Georgia, you'd be pretty nervous about Zay Mincy at safety and Deshaun Jones at Husky, just in the sense that they haven't played a ton, particularly Mincy being a true freshman. And, good coordinators, good coaches on the other side, they target your weakness. That's why you watch, particularly in high school, for people who don't know that, when you're building a game plan, most of the time you watch the other team's game film, and what you're doing is you're picking out, okay, which 2 or 3 defenders do they have that just simply aren't very good players, and we're going to build a game plan and kind of attack those 2 or 3 players they have that aren't very good. That's what happens in high school all the time. In college, that also happens, certainly to a degree, and those 2 DBs would be attacked by good offenses and good coaches. I don't know that Michigan has the weapons to attack them, so it's probably not a lot that us Alabama fans need to lose sleep over. But there's no question that Michigan is going to have a game plan, and part of that game plan is going to point out the free safety's making his first start. He's a freshman. The nickel corner is making his first start. He's played some, but he's making his first start. We're going to attack the middle of the field because attacking outside the numbers for Michigan is futile. They're not going to make any hay attacking Damani Jackson or Xavier Brown. That's nuts for them. They cannot match up, and it's a waste of time, plus it's a degree of difficulty. So when they do attack by the air, Luke, I think they're going to attack the middle of the field. So Alabama's DBs have to stand up to that.
First of all, I'm sorry I did have to pick up my phone while I was muted because my dad calls. Does anybody else have this? Like, I leave my phone on mute a lot because I'm either doing a podcast or nobody calls me. They text me. So I don't ever have to get the phone. And the only people who call me are my parents. So when my phone's on mute or silent, my parents call me and I don't pick up. And then I see they called and I call them back. They go, you never pick up whenever I call you. And I go, well, I called you back within 2 minutes. Is it that big a deal? Well, it's just so disrespectful. And so I was like, Jimmy's in the middle of a rant. I want to hear this, but my dad's calling. I got to cut. And he said, yeah, no problem. Call me back. I was like, yeah. Anyway, so
what would make it worse is if you tell him when he calls and says, it's so rude when you call and don't pick up, say, Dad, you're the only person I do this to. Yeah. I'm not doing it to anyone else. It's just you.
Mom. No, it's just you specifically. I don't think, but I did hear when I just picked up the phone, I could hear because, my parents are like every other parent. They're about a second and a half behind whatever technology they're using. And so when I picked up the phone, Dad, I heard in the background goes, he never picks up on the first time I told y'all. And then he goes, hello. So anyway, well, we can talk about Michigan and attacking the middle and all that, and that's fine. But the stats for Davis Warren make me feel so much better. That 1,126 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year, Jimmy. 9 interceptions on the year. 9 interceptions isn't great, but if like Tua Tagovailoa has 9 interceptions when he's thrown for 50 touchdowns and 4,500 yards, you're sort of like, okay, I get it. This guy's Jimmy. These are really, really bad stats. Now his completion percentage, I guess, isn't awful. He's 125 out of 197. Holy cow, though, man! Maybe it'll bite me in the tuchus. Some Michigan fan will be watching this, and he'll send it to Davis Warren, and they'll say Alabama doesn't think you can do anything. The stats sort of tell me that.
Yeah, the stats are not good. Here's even more alarming for Michigan fans, although they've had to live through this, and thankfully Alabama hasn't. But Davis Warren is just one of 3 quarterbacks who've started games, and he's been the best one. I mean, he's better than the other 2. They started Alex, what's his name, Orji, who's now in the transfer portal. They moved him to running back, and now he's in the portal. Orji, he's gone. And Jack Tuttle, they started him a game or 2. That didn't go well at all. So Davis Warren has been the best of the 3 quarterbacks that have started games at Michigan. But it's not saying much. But I will give the kid this. Not enough fans give enough credit to just this, what I call, it's not even a stat. It's so big. Wins. This kid beat Ohio State. And I know they only scored 13 points. And I know his numbers weren't great in that game either. And I know everybody's going to say, yeah, well, Davis Warren didn't beat Ohio State. I would tell you, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He was the quarterback.
Well, he didn't screw it up.
That won the game. He had Michigan got at least 60 to 70 offensive snaps in the game. He had 60 or 70 chances to blow it, and he didn't. So he did beat Ohio State. And so there's something to that. And he's the quarterback at Michigan. So you have to respect your opponent and take it seriously. But like Luke is saying, maybe another good way to put it is Alabama's played several quarterbacks that are better than this guy and have won. So there's really no excuse for Alabama not winning this game. But, Davis Warren will probably have a couple of moments. It makes sense. He's also without, by the way, their best weapon. No question their best weapon in the past game is their tight end, Colton Loveland. He's going to be a very high pick in the NFL draft. I think he's great. He has also opted out and was by far their best weapon. So Michigan really is playing this game shorthanded. And that just, as far as I'm concerned, Luke, that just means, hey, no excuses here, Alabama. Y'all go win this football game and don't allow this to be a 60-minute game. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't have been even with Michigan at full strength. They're far from full strength.
Well, and that's absolutely right. In a way, I'm thinking, God, this kind of puts more pressure on specifically Milroe. Because if Davis Warren were to outplay Milroe in this game, man, and I'm dread the narrative that will be applied to Jalen Milroe's career based on this game, which essentially doesn't mean much, but we've discussed it means a lot because you want Alabama getting a double-digit wins again. You want to go into the season on a high note. I know some of that stuff is a little bit overblown because you can certainly have a blowout in a bowl game, but you know what, and do well the next year. But I mean, hey, Florida State had a blowout in a bowl game, and what happened to them? They went 2-10 this year. So, by the way, the ACC is stunk, and I'm here for it. So, but Jimmy, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these other bowl games, how the SEC has performed, how the ACC has performed. We're going to do all that right after this. Time to talk a little bit about Rocket Money, because Rocket Money is awesome, and we appreciate their being a sponsor of this program. They're good people. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It definitely happened to me. It's happened to me a few times. I've had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even your goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Holy cow. If my math is right, It saved all those people $100 million each. No, that's not right. Saving members up to $740 a year. Okay, that sounds better. And when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Okay, so a couple of things, just some odd and end news and notes stuff. First of all, Garrett Nussmeier and Harold Perkins are both coming back for LSU next year. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they have dudes. I know that they've struggled this year. And
will he be preseason All SEC, you think, Nussmeier?
Yes, I think he'll go into the year as the quarterback of the SEC. That doesn't mean he will play like it and be the postseason quarterback of the year, but I think preseason he will be, and I'm a fan. I think he's really good. I know he didn't have a great game against Alabama, but there's other games, and he's been good at times. LSU, they'll be dangerous because they'll have a handful of dudes, and Perkins is a dude, Nussmeier's a dude.
Squirrel White is in the portal. There was some, Twitter fodder about his potentially coming to Alabama. I think they're pretty set at wide receiver, Jimmy.
Yeah, they're loaded. I mean, there's 12 guys now in the room, and including Mbakwe. Mbakwe's like picking up a second portal receiver. There's just no reason to take Squirrel White when you have Ryan and Jeremy and Isaiah Horton and Mbakwe. I mean, there's your top four. Where's Squirrel White's not coming to be the 5th, 6th, 8th guy, and we don't even need a 5th, 6th, 8th guy because we got Adams and Hale and Rico Scott, and Alabama just doesn't have room for Squirrel White. And by the way, BOL, we checked on this just to make sure per Tim Watts, it doesn't appear that Alabama's got interest in Squirrel White. That's just, as usual, people reading Twitter, not BOL. And you should, read BOL and listen to Locked On.
Yeah, and there's been no sign of Peter Woods or TJ Parker getting in the portal either, which was a rumor that, look, I wanted to buy into it.
Sure.
We said it's probably not happening, but we wanted to buy into it because I would love to have either one of those guys on my team. But that hadn't happened yet. I guess it could still. Do they still have their window open? I don't even know.
Everybody's window is open, but I guess it's closing. It's closing today, right? I mean, I think
Clemson has that window that's extended because they played later, right?
I think it's because their window extended 5 days beyond their participation, but their participation's over. So I think the window is closed at Clemson.
Okay, so that's done.
And what happens sometimes is, we talked about this before, these kids all have agents. They might not be in the portal. That doesn't mean that their agent's not talking to people. And what happens is, hey, he's not in the portal, but he might be. What kind of money are we talking here? So
there was. I saw on an Auburn board that Malcolm Simmons has reached some new agreement, and it's interesting to me because Malcolm Simmons played at BRHS, where I'm from, Alexander City, a good kid, and so I just thought that was interesting because he never got in the, and I thought, boy, he never got in the portal, but I guess assuming it's true, which I bet it is, that he probably renegotiated something. And again, we're in such a weird, wild world of NIL that we don't really know what the heck's going on. And all these rumors that sounded so crazily stupid 5 years ago probably aren't stupid enough anymore.
You have to have this mindset. Believe everything and believe nothing at the same time. That's what we have to learn to do. That's what we have to learn to do. Hey, anything can be true. Most of the time, it's not.
It's not a lie if you believe it. By the way, my youngest son said, "Dad, have you ever," like I could tell, like this must have just happened to him. He said, "Dad, have you ever had a perfect cut down for somebody and you didn't think about it, but till like way after you left the conversation with that person?" I was like, "Son, let me tell you a little about the jerk store."
Jerk store.
Okay. Other bowl stuff. A&M, Texas A&M. I mean, are they forever going to be the letdown? I mean, are they forever going to be the letdown? I mean, they just take. I can't imagine being an A&M fan and being so disappointed every year. All the resources, all the everything. Even though you have all the resources of Texas, you have the weird cultishness of Auburn. You have the talent base of, Florida and Georgia. I mean, essentially combined. You got it all, man. You're in the best conference, and you end the season after all this that you went through all year, and you're so good, and you were this close to being in the playoffs, and then you go to Auburn and you lose, and then to a bad Auburn team, by the way. Then you come home and you lose to your arch rival. You still would have probably been in the playoffs if you just beat them. There's still a good chance. If you beat them, there's a chance, but you lose to them. And then you're like, okay, I guess we could have worse bowl games. We're going to Las Vegas, y'all. Going to Vegas, going to play a USC team that Miller Moss is in the transfer portal. They've lost some other dudes. And they come back and beat you in the last few seconds. They rip your heart out. I'm saying this with total empathy, A&M fans. I can't imagine the heartbreak you almost go through every single year. And on top of that, you have to watch Texas have this magical resurgence. And by the way, they came into your place in one of the most rabid environments that's probably been in college football all year, and they beat your brakes off. It's just sad, man.
A&M is maybe not just this season, but I mean, since in my experience with A&M, I would call them the best team I've ever seen that's won nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty good. I mean, they've always got players. And even the Jimbo Fisher teams were pretty good. I mean, and I agree, deserve to be fired, and they need to go in a different direction. But even Jimbo Fisher's teams had some good wins and some good performances. Kevin Sumlin's team was good until they weren't. And, I believe in Elko, but I agree with you, Luke, that A&M is just that team right now that there's going to be a heartbreak at the end. And there's also going to be a lot of well-deserved optimism. Like going into next year, A&M fans will be like, hey, you know what? I think we're pretty good. And they probably will be. But will they win the SEC? No, they will not. Let's just go ahead and put that out there, right? Will they win the SEC next year? No, they won't.
Well, it's worse than I thought. Somehow it slipped my mind that they were blown out by South Kakalaki too. So they've actually lost 4 of their last 5 games. Is that right? Did I just look at that right?
Right. I wonder, are they going to commit to Marcel Reed? Are they going to commit to Marcel Reed, or are they going to go in a different direction at quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, but boy, it's got to be so disheartening for them. And, you can say, well, it could be worse. We could be some other. I mean, Auburn's won a national championship. LSU, they've had some stinky years, but they also had one of the greatest teams we've ever seen in 2019. I'm trying to think, even Ole Miss. Ole Miss's expectations aren't nearly as high as Texas A&M's for the rational fan because they don't have the same resources, the same branding, same anything. I mean,
Ole Miss is new to being this good. A&M's been this good forever and hasn't won anything. Ole Miss is new to being this good.
That's right. It's just bananas. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's losing to Navy was bad. I mean, I hate it for this reason only, that it gave Danny Cannell some Twitter fodder where he was tweeting out, the Oklahoma Navy score and then the Oklahoma Alabama score, and this is why they shouldn't be in, blah, blah, blah. As if the transitive property works in football regardless. But it especially doesn't work when everybody from Oklahoma is transferred out. Now, Oklahoma was up 14-0. They should have won that game. They gave up a 95-yard rushing touchdown to a Navy quarterback who was so slow they went to a commercial break, Lee Osment style, against LSU in 1989 on the 2-point run back. Lee Osment, he's at the 5 now. That pickoff happened in 89. It's now 2024, almost 25. Lee Osment's about to score. Did Lee Osment get in some trouble, by the way?
I think he did.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't think.
I like to remember him for that interception.
It was a 2-point. I think it was an interception and a 2-point conversion.
It was a 2-point conversion attempt. He picked it off. I've got to find it on YouTube.
I was there at the stadium. I was actually there to tell you what happened. I'm still there, waiting for him to cross the goal line. Still there.
Well, I think it happened in the 3rd quarter, and he finished running in the 4th.
I was there. I'm still there waiting for it to happen. I was 19 years old when he picked off the ball. Now I'm 54. Still there. It is funny that we talk about that. And that shows how much football's changed. That I don't think Lee Osment could play defensive back.
Oh my God, are you serious? No way.
He could not play.
No chance.
But hey, football's a sport of eras, and in his era, he was a good player. He was a good player.
All right. We're going to talk some more about this. By the way, surprise to me, how did I go this whole year and not know this? How did I go the last few years? Do you know James Burnip is 6'7"?
I didn't know he was 6'7". I knew he was tall. If you asked me how tall he was, I would have said 6'5". He's 6'7".
Tony Sakulis or Tony Tukutsuk, the
Tony
Greek name.
Sukalis.
He sent out a tweet and like showed James Burnip trying to ride one of the rides, and they were like, "You're too tall to ride this ride." I've never heard that. I've heard too short to ride it. I've never heard.
Look at that.
I mean, and I would have figured like, okay, Shaq can't ride it. Okay, I get that, but like, or Manute Bol or something, Wimbenyama. But
Charlie Potter had some good tweets following Alabama's team around Busch Gardens yesterday too. So yeah, all the beat writers got to go to Busch Gardens with the traveling group for Alabama's venture to Busch Gardens yesterday. So the beat writers all have good photos and stories from and watching Ryan Williams at the park is just another reminder that he's 17 years old. Ryan is 17, and it's apparent watching him at the park acting like a 17-year-old, which
licking a giant lollipop. He's got like one of those little beanies with the spinning thing on it.
He's just really excited to be at the park, like every 17-year-old in the world would be.
He's like, "Wow, look at that, Daddy! I want a balloon." Okay.
You know what I think we ought to do next year? And since next year his age isn't so much a thing because there's a lot of 18-year-olds that play college football next year, we can't call him an 18-year-old next year because there's a lot of 18-year-olds that play. So I think next year we should remind people every time he makes a play, did you know he was 17 last year?
That would be good. That would be good. I like that. I say we do that. I'm here for it. I'm here for any
17 last year.
Any gimmicks. Yeah. I did that wrong. I don't know what I was, because I'm not supposed to do a live read. Oh, I see. I was supposed to do the no ad thing. All right, I'm not fixing it. They told me I'm supposed to say I can't keep saying I'm not fixing it either. So I'm not fixing that though.
We'll fix that.
All right. So today, Alabama's got South Dakota State. They're the Jackrabbits, right?
Jackrabbits. That's right. That's a cool nickname.
By the way, it's almost like we have a rivalry with them. It feels like we play South Dakota State a lot for some reason.
Yeah, definitely not the first time we played them in basketball. Hadn't seen them in football. They're an FCS football team and a real good FCS football team right now. But yeah, decent basketball team. And this ends the non-conference. This ends the preseason. And I know Alabama's a big favorite today, but I think today, Luke, is all about finishing 11-2 in the non-conference, which is an outstanding one-loss record considering their strength of schedule, which is only going to benefit Alabama as the season progresses. But it's not about so much beating South Dakota State. It's let's finish this non-conference portion 11-2 and get ready to attack the most deepest, most awesome college basketball league of any of our lifetimes.
That's ever existed. That's ever existed. I mean,
I agree.
Okay, I know there are people who are like SEC people are always into hyperbole. People have been tweeting out, the SEC is, 1,622-0 in hypothetical matchups and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff's kind of funny. I dare somebody to show me either hypothetical evidence, intangible evidence, or empirical evidence that there is a conference better than this one right now. Our worst team has 10 wins right now. The worst team in the conference, I guess you would call South Carolina, and I feel greasy calling South Carolina the worst because they're pretty good.
Yeah, they are.
They beat a ranked Clemson team earlier this year.
No, that's exactly right. They have a win over a ranked team. They have three wins over ACC teams, and this is the worst team in the SEC.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if Alabama is on the road at South Carolina, I'm going to be going, you better lace them up.
It's our second game.
Yeah. I'm saying you better lace them up. You better lace them up. That could easily be an Alabama loss. Easily. And you know what? The worst team in the SEC. So,
and you better get that win, because if you can't win at South Carolina this year, where are you winning? And that's not at home.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. 12-6 is going to win this league. And I'm rarely adamant about my predictions, but I'm adamant about that. If I'm wrong, maybe 11-7 wins it.
Oh God, that would be crazy. I don't know that 11-7's ever won the league, but I'm looking at South Dakota's schedule. They've got some, it sort of runs the gamut. They've got some close wins, so they've been in some fights. They've lost to Northern Colorado by a little bit, lost at Montana, lost against Boise State, lost at Nevada, lost at Colorado, and they just beat Chadron State, which I think is a university everybody from Game of Thrones went to. And then they play, of course, Alabama today at 1:00. And Alabama's going to be a big favorite, and Alabama's 22.5. And I think Alabama's going to get through this pretty easily. And they'll if you had told me before this season started, Luke, here's your schedule, Alabama's schedule, and you got 13 games. We'll give you 11-2 right now. I would have pounced on it. So that's the way we need to look at this, because I know looking back, you're like, oh, we probably should have beaten Oregon in the end. I mean, we kind of coasted towards the end of that game. Now, Latrell Wrightsville got hurt in that game, if you remember. The Purdue game is very forgivable because you played them there in Mackey Arena, and that place is nuts sometimes. I know that Auburn has blown them out. I think Mississippi almost beat them in a neutral site, but the Auburn game was in Birmingham. The other one was in a neutral site. Somebody else has beaten them. But if Purdue had played in Tuscaloosa, there's no doubt in my mind we win that game. Really? So it's just part of basketball. I don't mind losing a game like that if it's a teaching moment. We need to – that's one of those – you know what Purdue is? Purdue, South Carolina. Now we know we're going to walk into a hornet's nest. They're not as good as we are athletically, but if we don't play our hardest, we will lose.
That's right. And no, there's no shame at all in losing to Purdue at Purdue, or even losing to Oregon at a neutral site. I agree with you that I'd have taken 11-2 before the non-conference began. And I give Alabama's – I know some people are like, hey, they need to shoot it better. They're not as good as we thought. They've fallen from number 2 to number 5 or whatever the ranking is right now. I give Alabama's non-conference portion of the schedule an A, because they played a brutal schedule and finished 11-2, assuming a win today. So I give Alabama basketball an A, not an A plus, because I do have a plus and a minus system, not an A plus, but it's an A for finishing 11-2 against that schedule.
Here's another good question. What SEC team would get lower than a B? I don't think there's one. In fact, I don't know which one will get lower than a B plus. I mean, everybody you thought might be bad has exceeded expectations. I mean, and everybody you thought that would be good has been good. I mean, Auburn, Tennessee, Bama. I mean, Florida has exceeded expectations. They're undefeated. Oklahoma's undefeated. They've exceeded expectations. LSU, I thought, was going to be really bad. They've done pretty doggone well. They got blasted by, was it TCU or some other squad that they probably shouldn't have lost to, but whatever. LSU has exceeded my expectations. Of course, Vanderbilt has. Of course, I think they only have one loss. I mean, this is nuts.
SEC teams will not advance as far as they want in the NCAA tournament because they will lose to other SEC teams. That's what I see coming. Like, we're sort of going to knock each other out, even in the NCAA tournament, because there's going to be like 10 SEC teams in that tournament, maybe more.
12 of us. We made 12. That's got to be a record.
I'm sure that. I think 10 would probably tie a record, I would guess. But I think 10. I think 10 teams could easily make. And I think every SEC team that makes it is a threat to advance. It's not just making it; it's getting there and winning. And it's crazy. It's going to be a crazy year. What's going to drive me most crazy is Alabama fans treating each loss like the Hindenburg has fallen out of the sky and landed on the Titanic. These are really good basketball teams, and Alabama should win all the home games. They should. They should. I get the criticism if they lose a home game. Any road win is masterful this season.
No doubt about it. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.